Hello, and how are you, friends? Thank you for joining me for another Facebook Live. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jasmine Starr, and I am a photographer, and I am a business, branding, and social media strategist, and I am so happy to welcome you to today's chat. And today we're going to be chatting about one of my favorite things, which is how to create an ideal client profile. This is one of my favorite things because, as anybody knows, and if you've followed me for a while, this is something I'm always talking about. I've been talking about how to create an ideal client profile for a long time, for almost a decade. So before I start chatting with anybody's business, if any type of entrepreneur, so anybody from like a very creative field, like photographers, graphic designers, bakers, and even from a less creative field, somebody who creates like a series of products for clients, or somebody who puts out online education, far before I even know what the end product will be, I'm first and foremost talking to people about who they want to market to. Because my mom always said, which I'm sure I'll say again and again, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to know when you arrive. So part of this is knowing, who do you want your marketing to cater to? Who is the person that your business is uniquely qualified to serve? Because a lot of times when we get started in our business, we're in the hustle mode. We just want to get what we want to go fast, as quick as possible. We want to grow, grow, grow. But then you get to a point in your business where you're like, I really want to work with people who understand me, who get me, who value me. I don't want to attract a very certain type of client. This is the person I always want to work with. Or you get a client and you're like, man, if all my clients could be like this client, I would just be so much more satisfied. Great. If you've ever felt either one of those situations, the key to understanding what you want to get more of is actually to identify what you want to get more of. So if you don't know who you're going to attract, there's a good possibility that you're going to be attracting a mix of really great people and really not so many the type of customers that you want to work with. But before I get there, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the proof in the pudding, because I'm going to show you a little email that I got just this morning. This is from Melissa, and Melissa was a student of mine, and she says, I'm here again to tell you that my ideal client contacted me and hired me to shoot their 12 days of giveaway campaign, and that client was none other than LaCroix. Yes, that same sparkling water we all know and love. And I need to take a minute and just say, that's right, girl. That's right. It is a water we all know and love. But I'm going to talk about one quick thing in her email. Now, I mentioned that she was a student of my online course, Insta 180. And so we went through this ideal client program with all the other tribe members. And at the end of her email, she says, especially the ones, she was talking about the lessons, especially the ones revolving around choosing the type of client you want to be, the type of account you want to be, and who your ideal client is, and tailoring your content just for her. So let's take a look at one of her favorite images. She ended the email by thanking me and wishing me happy holidays. But this is a girl who literally less than 6 months ago was posting photos randomly, like professional camera photos, random photos off her iPhone, and she had said she went grocery shopping and got some LaCroix, and then she, through Insta 180, tagged LaCroix. That started the conversation, and she said, I wish I could work more with companies like LaCroix. Guess what? Her intentionality, knowing who that ideal client was, having a distinct profile of who she was trying to attract, guess what? Ultimately brought that client to her. So that is so amazing, and I couldn't be happier for her. Okay. So how did Melissa know who she was marketing to? Well, she first and foremost created an ideal client profile. So you're probably here asking this very simple question, pretty much, what is an ideal client profile? In my mind, I've created a system to identify your dream customer. This is the person you want to work more with, often with, and somebody you're just going to implicitly get. So I've created a guide for you to walk step by step. And as I'm chatting about a person that I want to introduce you to, feel free to go to this link and download the guide, because we'll be working through the guide throughout the next 10 minutes of this conversation. Now, the guide is really long. It's much longer than like a 20-minute conversation can facilitate, but I'm going to actually walk through the first few of them so that it'll kind of get the ground underneath your feet and you can hit the ground running. You can download this free guide that will walk you through step by step at jasminestar.com/ideal client. Now, I want to take a second and I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. Now, she lives in Manhattan Beach, California, which is just outside downtown LA. It's along the beach. And she married her college sweetheart. She has 2 boys. She is a creative entrepreneur. She makes a series of soaps. And I had a conversation with her and tried to understand how she got her business to where it was. And she explained that she grew up on her father's ranch just outside of Ojai, California, which is in between Los Angeles and Santa Barbara. She grew up there and her dad had a goat farm. And on this goat farm, she would walk the fields and she would run her hands through fields of lavender and herbs, and she would collect them as a girl. And then moving on, she went to college in Los Angeles, and she had an opportunity to live in a loft in downtown, and she started experimenting with making her own soap, but not just any soap. It was like an homage to her father and how she was raised. She created goat milk soap, and not just goat milk soap. She created soap where she was getting lavender and herbs, stuff that she grew up around, and she started impressing them on the tops of the soap bars. And as she met her husband and fell in love, they moved to Manhattan Beach, and she had 2 beautiful baby boys. And as her business grew, she decided to have an Etsy store. And when she had her Etsy store, she started getting met with a pop of momentum. And then she started selling her goods at the Manhattan Beach Farmers Market, and things were going extraordinarily well for her. And then she got to a point in her business where she realized she needed to get bigger, but she didn't know exactly how. My friend, her name is Elle, and I've known Elle for about 2 years. I know Elle implicitly, and I talk to her, or I don't really talk to her, I think about her quite often. Now here's the catch of the story. Elle isn't real. Elle is a person that I have made up in my mind. Elle is my one ideal client. Now you might be sitting here and thinking, okay, so Jasmine's going to be speaking to Elle, just that one person. Okay, but I'm nothing like Elle. No problem. I've created Elle to help guide me. Elle is my compass. She is the person, or the idea of this person, that anything I put out, the Facebook Lives that I have on my page, the photos that I put on Instagram, the stories that I share on Snapchat, these are all created with Elle in mind. The content that I'm putting out as a part of my business, the content that I'm sharing with the personal aspects of my life. You might not like my fluffy white dog, but here's one thing I know. Elle likes my fluffy white dog, so she does not mind seeing photos of Polo. I've created an identity of this person. I know where she goes on vacation. I know the car she drives. I know her most recent YouTube video search. I know how she spends her weekends. I know her favorite types of movies. I know a lot of things about her, because then this helps me create marketing campaigns that will ultimately attract more of the type of people I want to work with. Are you guys following me? Like, this is the one thing. This has become the most pivotal and foundational piece of my business that has completely changed my trajectory. I got into business and I was like, I am going to work with anybody who will pay me. I just need to get my business up and going. And then I got to a point that I realized my business couldn't sustain working with everybody, right? My time and your time is the most precious commodity we have as business owners. So why not use that time working with people who know, like, and trust us, and who are like, they become your evangelist. So when you create marketing to one person and that one person feels like you're speaking right to them, they're going to share it with their friends. And even if you are creating content that isn't necessarily, like, you might be here at this Facebook Live and you might not be a female. You might not make soap and you might not be married. Guess what? There was something about the way that I wrote to my ideal client, the way that I invited you on my Facebook page. Something resonated, but without having an idea of who that person is, I didn't know how to find the right words. So let's dive in and see how you can do the same thing for your business in creating your ideal client. Okay, so here we go. Now, I told you where you can find this. If you're just joining us, feel free to pop on over to jasminestar.com/ideal client, and you're gonna download the guide. But let's dive into the first questions, or one of the first questions. I want you to answer this question. Where does my ideal client live? Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is silly. Why does it matter? I already told you that Elle, my homegirl, we go deep, she lives in Manhattan Beach, California. The reason why I chose specifically Manhattan Beach is because she's a city girl, right? Los Angeles, it's a division of Los Angeles, but she's not a downtown girl. She likes coastal vibes, right? So life moves a little bit slower for her. She doesn't want to live in a high-rise building. She has a small condominium in Manhattan Beach. But for those of y'all who are local to California, when we say small condominium, these are all seven-figure types of locations that her and her husband live a very simple life, but a very comfortable life. When you know where that person lives, the type of content that you create should appeal to that person. So if you are a customized fly fishing guide in Montana, there's a good chance that the content you create shouldn't be driven to talk about big city life, shouldn't really be talking about a lot of traffic. The content you create should really appeal to who that person is. So if you're in Montana and you're a fly fishing guide, you should be talking about relaxation. You should talk about open air. You should talk about fields. You should talk about be wading in rushing cold waters in waders. I think they're called waders. I've never been fishing in my life, but I think you wear waders. And if you don't, let's just roll with this, right? So the type of content that you're creating for that person appeals to who they are. That way, I can let go. I am not necessarily creating content to appeal to somebody in the Midwest. Now, somebody in the Midwest might find it appealing, but I'm writing with this person in my mind to understand how to guide and navigate these conversations. Let's get into another question, and we're going to build layers on top of these. Okay. So here we go, into another question. How old is my ideal client? Now again, you might be sitting here thinking, that is ridiculous. I don't necessarily need to know how old this person is. I'm gonna take a step back and let's re-educate. Let's flip the script for a second. When you know how old your client is, now sometimes I hear people say, oh, my ideal client is between 20 and 30. And I think to myself, 21 and 29 are two entirely different people. You're talking to them in a very different way. So for instance, if my ideal client was maybe 41 or 42, if I was trying to make a humorous reference, I could mention Beverly Hills 90210. And she would get that. Anytime you want to talk about Dylan McKay, that's right, we can get a little amen with this little hair flip. That would be something humorous that would appeal to that person in that specific age demographic. Now, if I was trying to appeal to somebody who was 21 or 22, probably they would have less understanding of Dylan McKay and more understanding of one of the Gilmore Girls, right? So these are the things that we're taking into consideration. So the type of marketing we create will ultimately attract more of the type of people we want to work with. Now, I know these are really small and these are just nuances, but these big nuances these small nuances make really big changes in how you approach a situation. So for instance, last week I sent out an email, or it was about 2 weeks ago, I sent out an email and, actually I remember, it wasn't an email, it was actually a post on social media. And on this post on social media, I was all about get the work done. As we end the year, I hear so many people often say, I wish I had more of that, or I wish I could do this. Listen, I am firmly a believer that you will get everything you want if you're willing to work hard enough. But so often people say, I want that, but then they don't put in the work. And so I'd written this post and I said, stop scrolling Facebook, except when you're watching my Facebook Lives. So stop scrolling Facebook, put a pause on your Amazon spending, don't watch Netflix at night. And then when it came to actually writing my copy, writing the words I was going to say, you don't have to watch reruns of Lost. And then I realized, wait, Elle does not care about Lost, right? It's an old show. It's a little bit sci-fi-ish and definitely for a male audience. I took a step back and I said, she's not caring about Lost. She's caring about Gilmore Girls. And so I said in this post, if you scroll down my Facebook page, in this post I said, get off Netflix. Turn it off. The Gilmore Girls will always be there. They're always going to talk fast and they're still going to be drinking coffee. So when you know the age of who you're speaking to, the gender of who you're speaking to, where this person lives, you have a better idea of the types of things that you should be saying. Now let me take a step back. Let me take a deep breath. We are going to be doing a Q&A because I know that we're dropping some mad knowledge real quick. I don't talk fast. You might listen slow, but I get there's a lot of stuff going on. If you like what's going on, simply like or love when you hear something you want to hear more of. That is letting myself and JD and Ariel, my team, let me know what you want to hear more of. And if you have questions, leave them here in the comment box and I'll be getting to them at the Q&A at the end. Cool. Let's do one more example to show you why I feel like this is so important. So when you answer this, his or her friends, so in my case, L's friends describe her as blank. When you know how your ideal client's friends are describing that person, so L's friends describe her as thoughtful, as fun, as considerate, and driven. Those are words that are really highly identified with L. So when I know how L's friends are describing her, I now have a guide of the type of content I should be putting out. Now, if L's friends described her as quiet, as a watcher instead of a doer, as somebody who listened before she spoke, then the type of content that I should create should appeal to people who are thinkers, should appeal to people who are naturally quiet. Like, there's a good chance that, like, I know I don't try to be, I don't intend to be, that I is what I is. I just come out and I can a little bit be in your face. I get that. And that is not for everybody. But guess what? I know that I can be 100% me and still appeal to L because I know how L's friends are describing her and what she's ultimately attracted to. So this finally leads us to one final point. This is probably what you're going to be asking me. Why is having an ideal client profile important? And my answer to that is, if you don't know who you are trying to market to, your marketing will go in lots of different directions. And when you have marketing that goes in lots of different directions, you're going to be attracting a bunch of different people and be spending a lot of money along the way. I'm a firm believer in ghetto fabulous marketing. What is the most amount of marketing I can get with the least amount of money? And when I know exactly who I'm speaking to and what they want to know from me, then I know how to create the thing that I ultimately want. I'm going to be starting to attract. And the great news is that I have systematically attracted L. Now, her name is an L, and L looks different in a lot of ways. L is a male, L is a female, L is a different entrepreneur on the East Coast and on the West Coast, in Australia and in Canada. I've written to L, but the way that I write to her has appealed to a lot of different people. Do I want one customer? No, in sweet baby Jesus' name, I want 1 million customers. I want to impact 1 million lives throughout my career. Now, I can only reach 1 million by knowing first and foremost the first person who I'm going to be ultimately wanting to speak to and attract. I hope this information has been good for you guys. Let's dive into the Q&A. JD and Ariel will be sending me questions, so feel free to leave them in the comment box. I kind of dropped a lot there. So this is one question that I thought was really good that I did see pop up, and JD had sent it to me. Okay, so B Latin asked, I feel so disconnected from my ideal client. I wouldn't even know where to start creating her. Plus, I know nothing about brands and stores, so I wouldn't know what brand she likes and where she shops. So can I even create her without knowing those specifics? Can I create her on a list of values alone? Okay, V, this is a great question. And the answer, I'm going to answer it actually backwards. You asked, can I create an ideal client profile on ideals alone? The answer is yes. But I don't want you to settle for, can I just barely? I want you to have such a robust idea of who this person is. Because once you answer those questions, I love the fact that you want to know what style of clothes she wears, where she shops, where she vacations. I love that. But here's the thing. I know that as a wedding photographer, my ideal client, I am attracting a bride in a luxury market. And I've come a long way in my business. I'm very comfortable. I love my lifestyle. But the people I serve, my clients, are far, far, far more, I don't even know a better word for it. They're just much richer than I am. I do not live my clients' lifestyles. These people come from wild amounts of wealth, old money, new money, but they are very wealthy. They're very smart. They come from really good families and people. Now, I showed up to a wedding, my 3rd year of business, and I walked into the bride's room, and the bride had not 1, not 2, but 3 wedding dresses. And she didn't have 1 or 3 or 5 pairs of Christian Louboutin shoes. She had 6 pairs of Christian Louboutin shoes. And at the time, I was like, wait a minute, what are these shoes? Like, why do these shoes have reds at the bottom? Like, what's going on here? I took a picture of those shoes because I thought this girl knows something. There's something about this client why she wanted 6 pairs of shoes with red soles on her wedding day. So I took it to me. I didn't know who Christian Louboutin was. I didn't even know at the time that girls can have 3 wedding dresses. I'm learning this stuff along the way. And as I navigate 2 businesses, I am a photographer. I will always be a photographer. Even if I'm technically a professional photographer running a photography business, I was a photographer before I was considered a photographer. I will always be a photographer. My camera will always be in my hands. But as I navigate my business now into talking about business strategy with a variety of entrepreneurs, I might not know. In my mind, there's one question that I asked, where did my ideal client go on vacation last? And in my mind, I know that Elle went to Greece, and Elle didn't stay at a hotel. Elle and her 2 sons and her husband spent 3 weeks vacationing through the Grecian islands. And she had a friend in college who let her borrow one of her villas, and she also had a beautiful VRBO house rental. Now let's get a couple things straight. I don't have 2 boys. I don't have any kids. I've never been to Greece. I didn't even know what the houses on VRBO were going for. I didn't even know that you can vacation on multiple islands through Greece, but I did homework. I got busy and I had to understand. I had to put myself in her shoes and say, when she's in Greece and she comes back from Greece and she's feeling inspired about her business, what do I want her to see on my Facebook page when she gets back? A Facebook Live on how to create an ideal client for her business. I don't need to know all the answers. I just have to be willing to put in the work and do some homework. Okay, so let's see. Melissa Moran, how do you make sure that your ideal client that you are describing is just things that you like? Do you feel that sometimes people start to describe themselves? I'm not sure if this makes sense. Melissa Moran, hey boo, how you doing? Many congrats on all your success. Now, I actually think that it's very beneficial. A lot of times people will base their ideal client off them. That's great. I don't have a problem with it. In fact, it's probably easier to complete the worksheet when you're basing it off yourself if you are the type of person you want to work with. There's no shame in that. Get it done. You can absolutely describe yourself. But the more that you do this, you're going to ultimately refine your ideal client profile. My ideal client for my photography work has changed in the last 11 years. And I know that Elle is where I am in my business today. I don't know if I'm going to create an entirely new ideal client profile in a year or 2 years, or if I'm going to grow Elle with me. Am I going to take Elle on the journey, on her business journey with my business journey? I don't know quite yet. There are no rules, but yes and amen. You can absolutely base your ideal client on things that you know empirically. Okay, Claudia Rios, how do you appeal to younger brides? I'm a 44-year-old wedding photographer. Claudia, I want you to first and foremost figure out not how old your brides are, but how old do you want your brides to be? That's a very distinct question. Now, once you itemize how old that is, like a younger bride in that 22, 23 range, she's younger, her parents are likely paying or helping her pay for the wedding. And from my experience, anytime parents are involved, it kind of murks the waters, right? Like parents want to have an equal say. When I create my ideal client profile for my photography work, my bride is 29 and 30. Like that's the thing I know with specificity because she's already finished her upper education. I shoot a lot of doctors, a lot of lawyers, a lot of professionals. Her and her spouse are highly educated. They are paying for the wedding themselves, and I like to do that. So once I know how old my ideal client was, I then created content that pertained to her precisely. So there's this new show on NBC called This Is Us. And I looked at the previews and I was like, that is not my kind of show, not my kind of show. But my sister, some really good friends of mine were just like, Jasmine, you have to watch the show. You have to watch this show. And I was like, okay, fine. So I watched 3 episodes of this show. And let me tell you, that first episode, I was like, oh, no. Okay, but then I watched the 2 other episodes and it went back to what I figured. It wasn't my kind of show. Very well done, but just not my cup of tea. But here's the one thing I knew. If all of my friends were saying, you have to watch a show, you have to watch a show, and they're the same age as my ideal client, there's a little bell. I should be watching, one, that show so that I can have social references in social media. I should also be understanding who is advertising on that show, right? Because advertisers have a much bigger research and development budget. If I know that, let's say Nordstrom is is targeting the This Is Us show and the commercials are all from Nordstrom, there's a good chance that I should be understanding how Nordstrom is marketing. Nordstrom currently right now has this beautiful holiday marketing campaign. It's called Love Nordstrom. Thought it was really smart. And I thought to myself, if I was targeting a client who's 29 watching This Is Us and shops at Nordstrom, that marketing campaign, the way that they talk online would really help guide the way that I talk about my business online. Okay, I need to take a second because I feel like I'm a little bit worried that I'm going a little too fast or not making sense. So if y'all could leave me that we're okay, that we're following along, and if I'm kind of lily-padding over big ideas, stop me in my tracks, ask me clarifying questions, and we'll get this party started. Oh my God, it's already 12:25. I said that we would have a 20-minute session. I think we're probably gonna go in like the 32-minute range. I'm gonna try to get through as many questions quickly as possible. Okay. Justina, my husband has online tutoring business for organic chemistry and is having a hard time getting new students each semester. Well, this is fantastic. The thing that you really want to understand is online tutoring for organic chemistry. If you could clarify if it's organic chemistry for high school or organic chemistry for college, because I firmly believe that you need to put yourself, or excuse me, your husband's business needs to be in the eyes of those people who are looking for it. Now, I believe, especially for online tutoring, you want to go deep before you can go wide. Because for you to say, I'm an online or an organic tutor online period, that's one thing. But if you can go, if he is an online tutor for organic chemistry in college and there's a local college, why not first and foremost do old school marketing? Put up flyers, talk to professors, put your name out. Then once you understand, or you could talk to professors and say, hey, I'm an online organic chemistry tutor, and I was wondering, can I talk to like maybe one or two of your students? I'll pay them for their time. I'll pay them $15 to chat with them for 45 minutes. Yes, there's a college student. $15, that's like a 6-pack or 2 or 3. I don't even know how much 6-packs are. But yes, an organic chemistry student would probably not mind if you bought them a 6-pack or 2 to pick their brains about the shows that they're watching, what social media, what are their hot points when it comes to organic chemistry, what are the types of words that your husband's business should be regurgitating. So I know that the Pythagorean theorem is mathematical based and not organic chemistry based, but I don't know any organic chemistry verbiage. But if your husband was talking to these students and understanding their pressure point, like I'm having a really hard time understanding the Pythagorean theorem, or whenever I do this or whenever I do that, it never gets back to it. When he understands and he hears these words, now when he goes out on social media, now when he has targeted ads on Facebook or targeted ads on Instagram, he knows the exact words to use to appeal to the people he's trying to attract. $30, 2 interviews, an hour and a half of his time, and he will have so much collateral in understanding ultimately who he's trying to target. Okay. I feel like, are we okay? Okay, cool. Let's see, Krista Renee. At what point in your business did you decide not to take clients who aren't similar to L? Could you possibly keep taking clients very similar who have some similarities of L and hope eventually it filters to be completely L? Great question. Now, I have to say that I never get 100% L, right? But I have learned throughout my business that the closer that your client gets to your ideal client, the better the relationship's going to be, the more they appreciate you. Sometimes they'll send you sweet notes or they'll send you Christmas cards. They keep up that constant communication with you because it resonated. To me, I had a limit. Right? So as business owners, we all get like red flags or pink flags or orange flags. We're just like, something's not right. Something's not feeling right. Because you clearly know your ideal client profile, because you clearly know who you want to work with. When you know that somebody just isn't that fit, and you know deep in your heart that it will be more hurt, it'll be more pain, it'll be more frustration, then you can confidently say, this isn't a good fit for me right now. You can send amazing recommendations to other people who will be able to service them in a way that they need. But then you put your blinders on and you focus. I just said no to a client, which seems crazy, but guess what? I have more time to focus on attracting the right type of clients. Okay. So now let's get into just 2 more questions. Samantha, I have more bookings for next year, doubled my bookings from this year. I credit much of that to learnings I learned from you. All right, great. I still want more clients for next year. Girl, that is always the case. My hardest part is keeping up with my social media postings. How can I get better with this? Samantha, I got you, boo. Moving into next year, moving into the next couple months, I'm going to be creating a video series on how to strategically use social media to grow your business. But I firmly believe that it's very hard to grow. It's very hard to get more followers. It's very hard to get more engagement. It's very hard to be seen within the algorithms if you don't have a plan. So my goal for the video series is to create a plan. Every week, I'll send out a video talking about free content to say, this is what you need to do to change, and this is how you can get more revenue. This is how you can make your business more profitable, and furthermore, this is how you create evangelists out on social media. These are people talking about your business. Last question, Monica Garrett. Question, at what point did you start implementing your ideal client and actually start getting those clients? For example, you have luxury clients. How did you first get those types of clients based on your ideal client profile? Monica, thank you for the clarification. I have to tell you that when I started off as a photographer, but this applies to anybody starting a business, there's a good chance you start off not charging very much, right? Because you're worried, will anybody pay me? Now, just like my business and any other business, the more that you do something, the more that you could charge for that product or service. So when I first started out, I did create an ideal client profile about 1.5 years into my business, because it was at 1.5 years of my business where I just felt like, why am I so unhappy with these customers? Or why do I feel like it's not a good fit for me? And I realized I didn't know what I wanted. And if I didn't know what I wanted, how could I ever receive what I envisioned to be a really great working experience? But 1.5 years into my business, I created a profile, but due to the type of business that I ran, right? So I would book a client and then I would wait months before the work actually came to fruition. It took me a while to actually change my ideal client profile. It took me about a full 12 months to actually see the biggest difference. 12 months later, I was booking brides and clients who I was like, wow, this is amazing. About 2.5 years into my business, every single client that I worked with, and I say this like hand to God, was amazing. My business took off. I was so much happier. My clients were so much happier. Now, if you have a business with a shorter turnaround, like let's say that you're a baker and I order cookies, theoretically, I can get the cookies the next day. So the more, the shorter the turnaround time for you to deliver your product or services, the much quicker that you can actually create your ideal client profile. Now, that's not to get dissuaded. It just means that as your business grows, you can actually start funneling more of the people and type of the ideal client that you had. And as my business grew and I started making more money and charging more money, I couldn't start off my ideal client profile. At the time, I was charging $1,000 for my services. And I couldn't say I wanted to shoot a luxury client. Why? A luxury client was not intending to pay $1,000 for wedding photography. A luxury client was intending to pay $12,000 for wedding photography. So once I actually built my business to that arena, I then changed the type of ideal client that I had to start attracting more of the luxury type of client. For those of you guys, it is 12:32. Dang, we ended after the extended time that I had said. But thank you guys for these amazing questions. I will be popping into the comment box as much as possible to respond to questions, comments. Just want to connect with you. But more than anything, I want to say thank you. These things always make me so nervous, but the fact that y'all just showed up to have a conversation means more than you know. I hope you have a great day. Feel free to contact me at jasminestar.com or on social media at jasminestar. I hope you guys have a fantastic day.